Andrew, thanks again for being with us and just talking today about finances in particular, and in particular the vision behind finances, or what drives financial budgeting for a church plant. In the early years, how did you go about talking to your core team or your leadership team about budgeting? How did you surround that conversation? What did you surround it with?
Yeah, look, there's a bunch of things to say. One of the first ones is it's important as a leader to not be embarrassed about talking about money. It can be, you can be apologetic, and that's unhelpful. To be yourself really captured by this is a worthwhile venture. This is worth sacrificing for, which means you've got to have a venture worth sacrificing for. But if you're persuaded that under God, this is what He's about, which we all are, I trust, winning people for Christ and making disciples, then the more you're captured by this is the thing to give to my whole life, then you come in conversation to other people with a sense that, of course, you'd want to be giving to this kind of thing, and this is a far better thing to be giving to than spending money on that holiday or spending money on that thing you were going to buy, or so there's no embarrassment. This is if you're yourself captured by what it is you're doing, how it's worth every sacrifice, every investment, then that brings a tone, obviously, of personal conviction and clarity, which means I can talk to others and help them see what I've seen, which is this is life and death, this is heaven and hell.
So I take it that you didn't have a fundraising team. You just went, okay, this is your job, guys. This was something you were involving the whole leadership team in terms of getting that vision across?
Yeah, two things. We never talked fundraising, so it's interesting you use that phrase. It's one of the things when we're not doing in Christian leadership is seeking to raise funds. We're steadfastly opposed to that notion. What we're seeking to do is create a culture of giving. It's very important that funds are an outcome of a giving culture, and a giving culture is an outcome of mature people. So the more people get the gospel, the more people get the heart of God, the less you have problems with funds. Money will be available. At present, most churches are operating with a kind of an average per head giving in 2% of their income. We're not even near 10%. We're not even near 15, 20, 30%. So if we can do what we're meant to do, which is make disciples, mature people, then maturing will mean people get less enamoured of this world. They'll be less caught up in the notion that my life consists in the abundance of my possessions. So Luke 12. They'll be more captured in the sense that richness towards God is the be-all and end-all. The more we mature people, they're more captured by those truths. The brevity of life, heaven and hell, the urgency of the situation. Oh, you need money. Yeah. So there's two things I think you've got to tackle. You've got to tackle the heart. Greed is a thing that's endemic in the sinful nature and this worldly mindset. You've got to tackle the maturing processes to help people become disciples, to no longer trust in their possessions, but trust in the God that they can trust in. But also, secondly, help people see that what you're about is something that is worth being about and will make a difference, and it's a worthy investment of my whole resource, money included. So two things: mature people, which is just the ministry, it's called discipling. I'm always about that. I'm about that from the core group phase to the early church phase to every year after. And helping people see that as a mature person, this venture is worth particularly sacrificing for. And that means you have to be about something worth sacrificing for. But the more you're about that, and you can with clarity communicate that, people will give. Funds won't be a problem.
So I'm just interested. I know that I understand the maturing process, and I understand what we're saying about actually communicating. So therefore, the heart itself is your goal, and the wallet is something that comes afterwards. But how then do you talk about money? A need arises. Do you have any practical hints about how you handled it, or how this played out?
Yeah. Okay, so down into practicals. You want to be proactive and face the fact you need to react as well. So proactively, I don't want to wait until there's a hole in the budget to come to people. Proactively, I want to actually engage in the discussion about my whole life being captured for the cause of Christ as a thing I bring to people before there's a financial need. And so often in the early phases, with certain funding structures in place, with Geneva support and so on, you can start a church not desperate for cash week by week, which means that's a good place to start proactively helping people think through what it is to be a giver. So in the early years, every year we did 2-3 weeks on giving. So I chose a part of the Bible, and it wasn't just 2 Corinthians 8-9 on giving. It was the first 4 chapters of Acts on the mission, on the vision of what God's about. On Revelation, we did the first chapters of Revelation. So you do a series on what God's purposes are, Ephesians 1, and capture people to what it means to be caught up like Jesus in the mission, and how this then relates to giving. Okay. So you bring your giving into it tied to that bigger picture of what God's about. So it's seen quite clearly as this is not me just wanting your money. This is me wanting you to be a certain kind of person and me to be that same kind of person, which is someone who's captured by God for his purposes, trusting him so that I don't trust my money. I'm not caught by greed. Now, I do that proactively, and we did that every year, 3 weeks each year for the early years. We try and do it every 2 years now. We don't do it every year, but every 2 years. And then with that climate that you're building, when I bring the reactive need, we're behind. We can't pay the bills or whatever it might be, and that's where we've been most of our life. Then it comes into a context where people hear the heart, they hear the concern. It's not just making an organisation run, it's responding to the mission we're about. So it sets a much healthier place, much more healthy response. We've now resolved, have done for many years, we bring news of the financial situation of church 3 times a year, maybe 4. So we'll choose at the end of March, April, after we've done our budgets and so on and brought them to the church, we'll bring news for 2 weeks of where things are at. We'll do it again early June, end of May, and then August, September, and maybe around November, December. And so we deliberately structure it so that it's not just, oh no, we're desperate. Bring news regularly. Yeah.
Listen, I can't help but think, here we are, we're sitting in a very nice building.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
And God's actually blessed the congregation here. They've actually got that discipleship heart. About your own heart, though, what sort of things have you done to try and protect yourself from, being overly focused on money, or even the love of what money could actually do in terms of ministry?
Yeah, look, the key is the same for everybody, which is come close to God, know God and his purposes. So what fuels greed is this worldly mindset, a trust in material, that I need these things, I'm fearful without these things. They become identifiers for who I am. The way you break that is twofold. You break it by learning to look to God as the one I can trust and rely on and find my identity in, not in my possessions. Life doesn't consist in that. So I need to look to God, and I need to learn to break the bond of greed by giving. So I'm filling my heart with who God is and what he is, and I can trust him. Food and clothing, I'm content with that. Learning to practice that art by looking to God. But then learning myself to give more and more. Keep learning to sacrifice, go without. Although I've got the money to do that particular thing or buy that particular thing, I'm saying no to it for now, for a period of time, to learn the discipline of saying no, I don't need it. So learning to be a giver myself. So we, like most, start with the kind of 10% figure, but we've tried to push that figure up over the years too. It gets hard in your, early teenage years of the kids, and
those money pits you call children.
Yeah, man, they cost a lot, don't they? In all kinds of ways. But so there's realities you've got to bear in mind. But we've tried to wrestle with both those factors: look to God and give. Look to God and give.
Andrew, that's just brilliant to have a chat with you. Thanks very much. And we're actually going to put an email address up on the screen now so that people have got more questions, they can send them in. But I guess we'll just be looking forward to the next time. Thanks again.
Good on you.